Like I said, I just opened the supply kit bag, and we're gonna go through this together. I know some of you were able to get this, some of you were not. And if you weren't able to come yesterday to pick this up, like I said, I made a drive plan because most of you guys live right here by the school. And next period during my conference, I think I'm gonna go do some front door drop-offs. Like I said, the first thing you have in your kit is a piece of masonite. And this piece of masonite is just so you can work, and especially with the soapstone, because like they said, soapstone is just compressed talc powder. So once you start carving, it's gonna make a bunch of, dust. So hopefully you can keep it on here. And when you're done working, you can take this to the trash can and just clean it off. So that's what this is for. Next thing you have is a little Ziploc bag with some of this cord and then a couple of tools. And then the next thing you have, which are very small pieces, are some clasps to make your pendant into a necklace. So these are like really small. Don't lose them, because if you lose them, you won't be able to make your necklaces. So what I would do, I would take out my tools and then put the string back in and close that bag back up, because you won't need this until you're done with your pendant. Okay. Next thing we have is a set to make, it's a hemp cord jewelry set. And we'll work on this later. The instructions and everything are in this. So this is a kit this is one thing that we will work on separate. So this is the other thing that's in there. You have a couple sheets of sandpaper, one that's coarse and one that's a little bit finer to help with your soapstone carvings. You have a bag that has like some random stuff in it. It has styrofoam cups. It has popsicle sticks. It has like small matchstick size sticks and some macaroni. So this is a project that we'll work on later. I know you guys seen Iron Chef, where you get like certain ingredients and you got to make something out of it. This is what this is going to be later on this semester. With this bag, whatever's in here, you're gonna have to create a sculpture with these available supplies. And then the last thing that's in the kit is a bag that has some stones in it. So like I said, the first thing we're going to do, we're gonna start on a small scale, and we're gonna carve out those little bitty rocks. And then at the end of the year, we're gonna come back and we're gonna work with the bigger size rock. Now, these are all like natural cut rocks, so they're different sizes. So depending on what your rock looks like, I think that's gonna dictate a lot what you can do with it. So, take a look at your rock and see, a lot of times you look at something, you're like, oh, I can make it into this. Something just pops into your head. So think about when you get your soapstone, the big chunk, what you can make out of it. And then the last two things is the small stones. And this is what we're going to start working with. So like I said, there's one stone. I mean, these are like really small. There's one stone that's just rectangular, right? Second stone, same shape, but it has a hole drilled into it. So this is going to be the pendant that we're going to make. Okay. So let me just very quickly give you some pointers on how to work with this stone, and then that's pretty much going to be your instructions for today. So you have a chisel. Now the thing with these chisels, I was able to get a couple sets of chisels, and the points are all different sizes. So I just kind of picked one out and put one in each kit. So each one of you is going to have a different size chisel. The cool thing about this is that, like you can use it to carve out chunks of stone, right? Chisel. You have this is called a rifling tool, which is a piece of metal that has like these, and I know you can't see it on the camera, but it has like these barbs that kind of, when you graze it or push it and pull it across the stone, it's going to take off big chunks. So this rifling tool is pretty cool, right? And then the last thing you have is a fine file. Now this fine file is going to be more for like finishing your work. So The rifling tool is going to take out bigger sections. And then once you have like pretty close to the finished shape that you want, then you can use this file to get rid of a lot of those ridges that the rifling tool made. So this is going to be like part of the finishing process, this and the sandpaper. Okay, so how do you work with this soapstone? First of all, make sure you plan well. You know, whatever you're thinking of doing, make sure you just don't start carving. Make a plan. So those are going to be the key words. The key words: planning. And when you are planning, you know, I would, like we said the other day, one of your assignments, especially for this pendant, was to sketch out and draw out what you're going to do with that. Now, whenever you sketch this out on your paper, I mean, you didn't have this stone in front of you, so you didn't know what size it was. So now that you have the stone actually in your hand, you can look at your sketch, and then with the pencil, you can kind of sketch it out and see what you're going to do with it. So before you start doing any carving, you know, draw what you're planning to do with this and make sure that you know what you're doing. Because if you have no plan and you just start carving, you might get rid of things that you don't need. So what you want to do, you want to have a front view and then a side view. So for my side view, this is going to look so, and that's all I need to start with, a front view and a side view. So what I'll do now is I'm going to start chiseling this away straight down. And once I have the front chiseled, then I'll start looking at the side and start narrowing this down to the shape I want. So planning, make sure you plan well. The second thing is you need to work in small pieces and sections, especially with the soapstone. If you try to take off too much at one time, then it's going to break off stuff that you didn't intend to get rid of. So for example, let's say I'm going to work with this carving tool. Let's say I had this and I am trying to carve away some of this. You know, what I want to do is a little bit at a time is carve away. And all I'm doing is I'm holding this and I'm kind of just pushing down. Now, some of you guys might want to push away from you, or, you know, in another fashion, but I'm going to go straight down. One of the things you have to remember is always try to push or carve away from your fingers, because these things are actually pretty sharp. And if you were to carve this way, you're carving this way and it slips and it stabs you, then more than likely you're going to have a nice cut that this is going to open, because these are really sharp. And then with the force that you're using, it's going to cut you pretty easy. So for me, I always say cut away from you, whether it's down or away. And I know that these stones are like very small, and I know it's going to be kind of difficult. So don't get frustrated if it was me, you know, especially because a lot of you, first time you've ever done something like this, you know, try to work a little at a time. And then if you get tired, just, you know what, take a break. Step away from your work. Take a break and then come back to it, okay? So this is a process that's going to be kind of slow. So I'm hoping that you can develop a little bit of patience if you don't have any, because it will take a little bit of while. It's pretty much you're scratching a little bit at a time away from the stone. So what we're going to do, and that's all I wanted to show you, you know, it's just scratching a little at a time. You know, once you get close to the shape, then you could take this rifling tool and pretty much work it to get rid of extra excess. And like I said, once you are close to your shape, you know, it's going to leave like these marks. And I'm sorry for the camera quality. I know this camera is like really bad. But once you are close, it's going to leave some ridges. Then you would take this fine file and try to get rid of those ridges. but that's pretty much the process. All right. So just remember, plan it out, draw whatever your idea is on the stone, and then work in small pieces, small sections at a time. All right. So the plan is we're first going to use the stone that has no drill hole in it to practice. So hopefully we can do a nice little design on here and just use it as a practice piece. And that way you see what it does, how it feels when you're working with it. And then once you have the hang of it with this practice piece, then you can take your actual pendant piece, the one that has a hole drilled into it, and make your pendant piece out of it. All right.